Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing a lens review of the Canon 35mm f1.4L Mark II. And I'm going to start right now. So in this video guys, I'm going to be doing a lens review of the Canon 35mm f1.4L lens, and this is the Mark II. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this review down into 5 separate parts to really work out if this lens is worth a spot in your camera bag. So without further ado guys, let's get started. So just before I start talking about the build quality of this lens, I just wanted to talk about some of the lens accessories that you get inside the box. So in the box you get a front and rear lens cap, a lens hood and a lens pouch. The lens pouch is made out of a soft suede material with a faux leather base. The lens pouch offers some protection to the lens, although it's not padded. So if you're after a more secure padded lens pouch, then you're going to have to buy one third party. The lens hood is made out of a premium plastic material with a felt lining. This lining is to help reduce the amount of lens fairing and it increases the contrast of your photos. Now because of the standard wide angle nature of this lens, the lens hood is petal shaped and it is quite small, which doesn't offer much protection from damage, but I would still recommend using it instead of using absolutely nothing. So overall, I was impressed with the build quality of all of the accessories, but the only thing I was a little bit disappointed about was the lens bag that you get with it. I wish they made lens bags like Sigma did when they created the amazing ones for their art lineup, such as the Sigma 35mm f1.4. This has a great bag with the lens inside the box, but again, it was still great build quality. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is the build quality of this lens. So this lens is predominantly made out of premium plastic with some parts made out of metal with one rubberized ring. The ring is the focus ring and it is incredibly well damped and smooth, and it's also a great size as well, and it's easily distinguishable apart from the other plastic parts that the lens is made out of. This lens also includes an easy to use focus window, which makes it a lot easier and more precise when you're wanting to use this lens for manual focusing. As this lens is not image stabilized, this lens only has one button, and this is to change the autofocus to manual focus. This lens also has a weather sealing gasket on the rear, making this lens water resistant when you do place either a UV or a circular polarizer filter on the front of it. This is great if you're planning on wanting to take this lens either to a wet or dusty environment. The only downside I felt with this lens is the build quality doesn't live up to the Sigma or Tamron lenses out today. As much as I prefer the premium plastic material for keeping the weight down, the Sigma 35mm, especially all of their art series lenses, are head over heels way better quality than the Canon lenses. But overall, I was still impressed with the build quality. I must say I really do love all of the L series glass that Canon make, especially their prime lenses. I must say they are great build quality. If you're after a great lens, then Canon L series lenses really do show that in the build quality. It's just that I do prefer Sigma's build quality over the Canon L lens. So for that reason, I'm going to be giving this lens an 8 out of 10 for build quality. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the image quality of this lens. So this lens is a 35mm standard wide angle prime lens, meaning this lens does not zoom. Now because of this, this lens has an incredibly large minimum aperture of f1.4. f1.4 is an incredibly large aperture that lets in a ton of light, making this lens great for low light photography or for creating a beautiful shallow depth of field, making this lens perfect for all types of photographers. So let's have a look at a few sample images. So here we've got a standard 35mm shot at f1.4, the maximum aperture of this lens. So if we go ahead and zoom in, you can really see how truly sharp this lens is at f1.4. I love how sharp this lens is at low apertures, because I find sometimes, especially low aperture prime lenses, suffer from a lack of sharpness, as you can see from a few of the shots here with the Canon 50mm f1.4. This 35mm is a lot sharper. But if we go ahead to the corners, you can see that sharpness does drop off. But if you are after better sharpness in the corners, all you'll need to do is simply go ahead and drop this lens down to f8. This is where this lens is at its sharpness. Another advantage of buying a prime lens over a zoom lens is the lack of distortion. With this lens, you'll notice there is very little barrel or pincushion distortion, as prime lenses don't usually suffer from this. But again, because of the wide aperture nature of this lens, it does suffer from quite bad vignetting at f1.4. But simply to remove the vignetting, all you'll need to do is step this lens down from around f4 and the vignetting completely disappears. I was also impressed with how well this lens suffered from lens flaring. In fact, I would say this is one of the best lenses when it comes to handling lens flaring. And where it did suffer from lens flaring, I thought that it was quite artistic and it did look very appealing. And with the lens hood, I found that the lens flaring was almost non-existent, which is great to see from a wide angle lens. But overall, I was incredibly impressed with the quality and sharpness of the photos and the way that this lens handled chromatic aberration and distortion. The only downside is the high vignetting, but again, you can remove this by simply stepping up the aperture of this lens. So for that reason, I'm going to be giving this lens a 10 out of 10 for image quality. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the size and weight of this lens. Now, because this lens is made out of a premium plastic instead of a metal construction, this lens is a lot lighter than other metal zoom lenses on the market. But due to the amount of glass elements in this lens, it is still quite heavy, weighing in at 760 grams or 1.68 pounds in the US. In fact, this lens is actually heavier than the metal constructed Sigma 35mm f1.4. That lens just comes in at 665 grams or 1.47 pounds in the US. Almost 100 grams less than the Canon lens. This lens also has a larger filter thread. The Sigma lens comes in at just 67mm, where the Canon lens comes in at 72mm. Although the Canon lens is only just ever so slightly larger, filters will cost you more due to the increased size. And when the lens hood is on this lens, the lens is almost 16 centimeters or 6.3 inches long, almost 1 inch longer than the Sigma lens. So overall, I was not impressed with the size or weight of this lens, as it is made out of cheaper materials, but it's still heavier than the metal construction that the Sigma lens offers, and with a lot better value for money, especially with the cost of a UV filter or a circular polarizer filter. This lens will be a lot more money compared to the Sigma lens. So for that reason, I'm only going to be giving this lens a 5 out of 10 for size and weight. So the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the focus motor and image stabilization. So because this is part of Canon's flagship lineup, the L series glass, this has the incredibly quick and quiet ultrasonic motor. The motor is world renowned for being incredibly precise and accurate even in low light, and it's great to see, especially with a lens that can offer such a creative shallow depth of field. You really need to make sure that you absolutely nail that focus because of the very, very shallow depth of field that this lens offers. The only downside to this lens is it doesn't have image stabilization, although I don't know many wide angle prime lenses that do offer image stabilization. But for the price, I was expecting something absolutely revolutionary, and having image stabilization on a wide aperture prime lens from Canon would have been great. So overall, I was really impressed with the speed and accuracy of the focus motor. It was also incredibly quiet, which is great if you're wanting to use this lens for video. But again, I would highly recommend using either an external microphone, such as a shotgun microphone or a lapel microphone, just to get rid of any of the ticking noises that the ultrasonic motor has, as sometimes, in some cases, it can be a little bit off-putting. But again, lenses like this do have that problem. So again, I would always try and use any external microphone, as the actual quality of the audio would be a lot better. So overall, I was really happy with the speed and accuracy of the focus motor, even though it didn't have image stabilization. So for that reason, I'm going to be giving this lens an 8 out of 10 for focus motor and image stabilization. So last, but most importantly, is the price. Now, wide-angle prime lenses usually come in around the £1,000 mark for a good quality lens. To put this lens into context, the Sigma 35mm f1.4 comes in at £619. But I would expect that the Canon lens would probably be around the £1,000 mark, as they do charge more for their native Canon lenses. The problem is, this lens is not. In fact, this lens comes in at a whopping £1,789, one of the most expensive wide-angle prime lenses on the market. In fact, this lens is 3 times the price of the Sigma 35mm, a ludicrous amount of money, especially for what you get. This type of money, I would expect this lens to be revolutionary in offering image stabilization, a bit like the brand new Canon 85mm f1.4. This lens offers image stabilization and in fact is £300 cheaper, so I don't understand why Canon have not done this with this lens. So overall, I was blown away by the incredibly high price tag of this lens, especially when it comes to the competitor lenses out there, which can be found for a lot cheaper and offer the same build quality and image quality. So for that reason, I'm only going to be giving this lens a 3 out of 10, as I feel this lens is incredibly overpriced and way out of budget for most photographers. Brilliant. And there we go, guys. So there is my lens review of the Canon 35mm f1.4, but with an incredibly high price tag. I must say, this is really out of budget for most photographers, and compared to the competitor lenses, such as the Sigma 35mm f1.4, this is almost 3 times the price. So this lens does not come recommended. And with a score of just 34 out of 50, there are more highly recommended lenses out there, again, like the Sigma 35mm f1.4, which again I've reviewed, and I'll make sure to put the link in the description. Again, guys, if you want to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, it really does help my channel grow. Also, if you want to hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of my latest content. But until next time, guys, keep creating.